Hello, I'm Liviu Balan, and today I will speak about Apache password authentication on Ubuntu Server. So let's get started. First, during this tutorial, I will install an utility programs for web servers called Apache 2 utils. In order to do this, first I will use sudo apt-get update. Enter the sudo password. And after this, I will use sudo apt-get install apache 2-utils in order to install Apache 2 utils. Hit the enter key. And after this, a new command, htpasswd, can be used. This manages user files for basic authentication. First, I will use the htpasswd command with sudo rights and the lowercase c option. This option creates the password file. If password file already exists, it is rewritten and truncated. Let's see an example. I will use the htpasswd with sudo rights with the lowercase c option in order to generate the password for liviu.balan inside of a file located in etc apache2.htpasswd. Hit the enter key, and now I will have to type the new password for liviu.balan. Enter the new password again, and as you can see, here I'm having a message adding password for user liviu.balan. Okay, in order to see the content of the previous generated file etc apache2.htpasswd, I will use the cat command. So I will use cat and the location of the file. Hit the enter key, and as you can see, here I'm having user liviu.balan with the password, this one. This is an encrypted password. Okay, if I use the htpasswd again, but with another user as argument, but with the same password file and the C option again, hit the enter key, enter the password for the current user, and if I use the cat command again, you will see that only the last user that I've entered, Liviu, is here, because as I previously shown you, told you, if I use the lowercase c option with the htpasswd command, if the password file exists, it is rewritten and truncated. So, in order to add a new user inside of my current htpasswd file, I will have to retype the command again with the user that I want, but without the lowercase c option. So I will use sudo htpasswd, the location of the file, etc apache2 htpasswd, and the user that I want to generate the password, liviu.balan. Hit the enter key, enter the liviu.balan user password, and now if I use the cat command again and hit enter, you will see that here I'm having the passwords for both Liviu and liviu.balan users. Now, during this tutorial, I will use some configuration section containers. What I want you to know is that these containers may be split in two parts. The file system containers and the web space containers. File system refers to regular directory and files that you can find inside of your operating system. The web space section refers to URLs. So most of the time you will not find a specific file relative to the current URL. Okay, in order to apply password authentication on Apache, what I will do first is to create a backup for my current virtual host configuration file, which is located in etc apache 2 sites available wp.livybalan.com.conf. As you guess, here I'm having a WordPress installation, and I will copy the content from here into another file with the same name but with a suffix back. Hit enter, and now what I want to do first is to edit my current virtual host configuration file. So I will use sudo vi etc apache 2 sites available wp.livybalan.com.conf. Hit the enter key, and before doing any configuration changes, I will open a web browser, and inside of this browser I will open the following URL: wp.livybalan.com. And as you can see here, I'm having a regular WordPress CMS, and because I will use custom configuration directives in Apache, I will comment the previously options on Apache. So I will comment these configurations inside of the directory directive, and the first thing that I will do is to restrict the entire document root. In order to do this, I will use this configuration. So, as you can see, the first configuration that I use is the first directive that I use is the directory directive. This includes a group of directives that apply only to the named file system directory, subdirectories, and their contents. I can copy and paste this comment here, and in order to use the directive effectively, inside of it I will put some other Apache options. The first one is the OTH type, and as you can see here, the OTH type has the value basic. This is the type of user authentication. Next, I will use the OTH name and I will place a value restricted content. This is the authorization realm for use in HTTP authentication. You will see in a moment when or where this value appears. Next, I will use the OTH user file, and as you can see here, I'm placing the value for the previously generated file with the htpasswd command. So as you can see here, the value here, htc etc Apache to htpassword is the same like this one, is the same path. This set the name of a text file containing the list of user and password for authentication. Okay, next I will use the require option. And as you can see here, the value is valid users, valid-user. This tests whether an authentication user is authorized by an authorization provider. All valid users can access this resource. So in my case, when I use the valid user value for the require option in Apache, I am referring to both Livu and Livu users that I've previously created with the htpassword command. Now, let's right and quit the configuration file, and in order to apply the changes, all I have to do is to restart the Apache web server. In order to do this, I will use sudo service apache2 restart. Hit the enter key, and now if I refresh the page, you will see that a new pop-up came here, and as you can see here, I'm having restricted content, which is the value from here, auth name, and I have to specify a user and a password. So now if I use the user Livu, for example, and type the password that I've previously generated, you will see that now I am able to see the content here. If I use the new private window option to create a private window again, you will be able to understand better how the authentication is running. Hit the enter key, and as you can see on the back of the authentication required pop-up, you will not see any page generated by WordPress. If I hit the ESC key, you will see that I am you will see an unauthorized message when you want to access wp.livubalan.com. Now, if I close the window and open a new private window again, use wp.livubalan.com. If I use, for example, livu.balan user with the password that I've previously generated and hit the enter key, you will see that I am able to see the WordPress content. Now, another thing that you can do is to change the require value from valid user to user and specify the user that you want to use. This use only the named user. You specify only the named user that can access the resource. So after I will restart the Apache web server, you will see that only the user Livu can access the wp.livubalan.com URL, but the user livu.balan will cannot access this resource. So right and quit, and now use service Apache to restart. Remember that always is a good idea to use private windows when you're testing the password authentication in Apache. So I will use wp.livyubalan.com. First, I will use the user livyu.balan with the password that I've generated, hit the enter key, and as you can see, Apache doesn't let me to use the user livyu.balan. But if I use the user livyu with the password that I've previously generated and hit the enter key, you will see that I am able to see the WordPress content. This is because, as I've previously shown you, only the user livyu can access the content inside of wp.livyubalan.com. Okay, now if I comment this require option and use instead the require IP and specify an IP here, the clients in the specified IP address ranges can access the resource. So now if I right and quit and restart the Apache web server, now if I close this private window and open a private window again, new private window, and then use wp.livyubalan.com, hit the enter key, and now as you can see I am able to see the content because I am on the IP that I've previously specified. If I change the IP address to another value, let's say 101 for example here, right and quit and then restart the Apache web server. Now if I close this private window and open a private window again for the wp.livyubalan.com, hit the enter key, and you will see that a forbidden message is shown because I don't have the IP that I've provided into the configuration file. Okay, let's change the value for the required. Let's comment it for now and restart the Apache web server. New private window, wp.livyubalan.com, and everything is okay. I am able to see the content generated by WordPress. You may ask yourself how I am able to see the content, to see the IP for the current request. In order to do this, I can do the following. Use the tail command with the -f option and then the location of the Apache log file for the current virtual host. So I will use tail -f var log apache2 and then wp.livyubalan.com on the port 80, and then for this I will use the access log file. Hit the enter key, and now if I refresh the page again, you will see some info here. Refresh again, and on this info you can see here the IP address 192.168.56.1, and this is the regular window and this is the private window. And as you can see, you will be able to locate the IP address for the current request. Okay, so this is how you restrict the entire document root. What I want to show you next is to show you how you can combine directory directives. So in order to do this, I will edit the virtual host config file again, and I will activate the require option with the valid user value. Right and quit, restart the Apache web server, open a new private window and access wp.livable.com. Use leave and the generated password, and you will see that everything is okay. Okay, next, what I will do is to edit the virtual host config file, and here I will create another directory directive. So I use the directory directive again, but I will specify here another location. As you can see here, I am specifying the var www.wp.livable.com location. Here I will specify the var www.wp.livable.com. WP includes directory. So on the project, on the entire project, I will apply a basic authentication using a valid user, but for a directory, for a child directory located in WP includes directory, I will apply no authentication type, and I will and the access is allowed unconditionally because I will use require or granted. Let's see an example. Right and quit the current config file and restart the Apache web server. Now let's open some URLs. If I open a new private window, and if I use wp.livable.com, you will see that an authentication is required. Open another private window again, and I will use the admin, the /admin URL, and here you will see that authentication required is shown again. Let's open the WP admin slug, and as you can see here, I am allowed open new private window, and as you can see here, I am prompted to enter the password again. The reason that here I were allowed to not enter the I am allowed to show to see the content is because this is not a private window, and I've previously I have previously accessed the Apache web server here. So as I told you, it is a good idea in order to test the password authentication in Apache, to always use private windows. So this is the WP admin, and as you saw, all these three URLs required me to enter an Apache password. But now, if I open a new private window, and if I use the WP includes slug and hit the enter key, you will see that here I am able to see the content of the WP includes directory without entering any password. The reason is this directory directive that I've previously used. So as you saw, you can use multiple directory directives inside of the same configuration file. Okay. The next thing that I will do is to restrict the access to a specific file. All you saw until now were restricting the access to directories. What I will do next is to restrict the access for a specific file. Okay, in order to do this, I will use the files. Directive in Apache. What I will do next is to use sudo and then copy etc apache 2 sites available wp sites available wp.livableland.conf back to wp.livableland.conf. This will restore the previously backup file because I will not use the directory directives that I've previously shown you. I will comment I will let the default virtual host config file as is, so without any configuration, without any restriction on it, but instead I will place a restriction on editor style.css, which is a file, and I will use a basic authentication type with restricted content authentication name using the previous generated password file located in etc apache 2 htpassword, and I will use the require valid user option. As you can see, the files directive contains directives that apply to matched file names. Right and quit, and then I will restart the Apache web server using sudo service apache 2 restart. Hit the enter key, and now I will open a new private window, and here I will type wp.livableland.com. As you can see, everything is okay. I am able to access the content of wp.livableland.com, also wp-admin and wp-includes. Everything it's okay. But whenever I want to access um, whenever I want to access a file named editor-style.css, you will see that the content is restricted. So now, in order to access the content of editor-style.css, I will have to type the Liviu or Liviu.balan user password. If I hit the enter key, you will see that I'm unauthorized, but if I access the URL again and type Liviu and then the previous generated password and hit the enter key, you will see that I am able to see the editor style.css, which is a regular CSS file. Okay. Besides of using the files container directive, you can use some other containers. I will show you next the location and LocationMatch containers that, as I told you at the beginning of the tutorial, are on the web space configuration section containers. So all you saw until now applies to the file system configuration section containers, and all you will see next applies to the web space configuration section containers. So the first container on the web space section is the location container. Okay, let's save this sample, and here I will comment the previous files container that I've put it. Instead, I will use the location container. This applies the enclosed directives only to matching URLs. Apply directives to content that lives outside the file system. So, as I told you earlier, this applies to files that this applies to URLs that you will not find inside of your current file system. Okay, so I will place, as you see here, I will place a restriction for /admin slug using a basic authentication type with restricted authentication name, the previous htpasswd file, and the require valid user value. Right and quit. And if I go to var wp.liviubalan.com and here if I type an ls, you will see, let's type ls -al, you will see that no admin directory or file is listed here. So the location applies to a specific URL but not to a file system directory or file. Let's see how it works. First, I will open a new private window and I will access wp.liviubalan.com. As you can see, I am able to access it because no restriction were put it here. But if I specify the /admin slug and hit the enter key, you will see that no restriction is applied. Let's close the private window and let's open a new private window with wp.livybalan.com and /admin. What did happen? The reason it may be that I didn't restart the Apache web server. So I will type sudo service apache 2 restart, hit the enter key, close the private window, open a new private window again, use wp.livybalan.com, which is okay, and use it with /admin, and you will see an authentication required here. But if I use wp includes, for example, you will see that I am able to see that content, but the restriction applies only to the /admin slug. Okay. Another interesting URL container is the LocationMatch. Let's open the wp.livybalan.com.conf configuration file, and here I will comment the previous location admin directive, and I will use instead the LocationMatch. As you can see, the LocationMatch applies the enclosed directive only to regular expression matching URLs. So as you can see here, I am having a regular expression, and I am using the same restrictions like on the previous location directive. I will right and quit the configuration file, and I will restart the Apache web server. Okay, next I will close this private window, and I will open another private window again. Let's use wp.livybalan.com, and now, as you can see here, I am having the /rss URL. Open it in a new tab, and as you can see, when I am opening wp.livybalan.com/feed, an authentication required appears. You will see that here I am unauthorized, and another URL that you can open is wp.livybalan.com/comments/feed. Open this tab again. You will see that I am unauthorized if I close the authentication pop-up, but if I type livyu and then the previous generated password and hit enter, you will see that here I am able to see the content from comments/feed. So this LocationMatch acts like the location directive, but instead of using a fixed location path, you can use a regular expression matched path. Okay. So this is how you use the LocationMatch directive. What I want you to remember is that when you are using container directives in Apache, you will have to know that there is an order of merging. This order of merging is directory, directory match, files and files match which are done simultaneously, location and location match which are done simultaneously also. Okay, let's comment this here, the location match here, right and quit, and restart the Apache web server. As you can see now, everything should act normal. Open wp.livebolan.com. I am able to see the RSS, to see the feed, the slash feed content, see some posts. Everything acts normal. Okay, what I will show you next is how to configure access control with the .htaccess files. Types of directories that are allowed in htaccess files are none, htaccess files are completely ignored, and all. Any directive which has the htaccess context is allowed in htaccess files. So what I will do first is to edit the apache2.conf. Okay, here I will search for www, and as you can see here, I am having a directive, and as you can see here, I am having the options option, allow override specified to none, and require all granted. By default, the allow override is specified to none. You can change the value here to all. Right and quit. Okay. And I will open the wp.livebolan.com.conf configuration file and search for allow override. And as you can see here, allow override is also specified to all. This means that you can use here the htaccess file. So if I use ls-al, this is the current htaccess that I will edit next. So in order to edit this htaccess file, I will use another user, livu.balan, with read and write permissions on the www data group. Use cd var www.wp.livebolan.com, and here I will edit the htaccess file using vi. Hit the enter key. As you can see, this is the htaccess dynamic generated file by WordPress, and here I will specify the previous editor style.css restriction that you saw earlier here. So this is the same restriction, but instead of placing it inside of a virtual host configuration file, I will place it inside of an htaccess file. Right and quit, restart the Apache web server using sudo service Apache to restart, hit the enter key. Now the user is this one, sudo service Apache to restart, hit the enter key, and now if I open a new private window, open wp.livybalan.com, everything it's okay, but if I open the editor style.css, you will see that an authentication required pop-up comes up. So instead of placing the files directives inside of my virtual host configuration file, I am able to place it inside of my htaccess file. What I want you to remember is that when using htaccess files, Apache has to reread these files on every request that involves the directory, which can impact performance. Also, not every directive context may be used inside of an htaccess file. As you can see, file and directory and directory match directives can be used only on server config and virtual host. Also, this applies to location and location match, but you can use files and files match on server config, virtual host, directory and htaccess section. Okay. This may be one of the reasons that by default you will not be able to use the htaccess files. So as I shown you earlier, the default value for allow override is none, meaning that you will not be able to use the htaccess files. So this may be a good reason to let it as is, allow override none, right and quit, and inside of your current virtual host configuration file, use none also, right and quit, restart the Apache web server, and if I will open a new private window again, wp.livybalan.com, you will see that when I will try to access the editor style.css again, hit the enter key, you will see that I am able to access the content because the htaccess rules doesn't apply. So whenever you are using htaccess configuration, remember that you may experience some performance problems, and you can see these problems when you are writing an application with a lot of concurrent users. If you want to learn more about htpasswd command that I've shown you at the beginning of the tutorial, you can use the man htpasswd command in order to access the manual page for htpasswd. And if you want to learn more about Apache, about Ubuntu, about web technologies, you can check out my tutorials on YouTube and also visit my website livableland.com. So this was the tutorial on how to use the Apache password authentication on Ubuntu Server. See you next time with more tutorials about web related technologies. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.